afternoon, Global Farmers Connect. So we're here in Berlin, Germany, with the main man himself, Clarence Mwale, who's running Agriculture Expo in Zimbabwe. So I'm just gonna do a quick sort of like introduction. Mr. Mwale, could you introduce yourself and what do you do?
I am Clarence Mwale. I'm the CEO of a company called Kuminda.
Okay.
We work with small-scale farmers around Zimbabwe.
Nice.
They grow export-specific crops for us. We support them with technical advice and inputs. We collect the crops from them and we grade and we pack in our brand and we distribute in Europe, in EU, and the UK.
Fantastic. Now, what are some of the challenges that you've had to face when you started this business, and what made you start this business?
The desire is based on the love for Zimbabwe, the love for Africa.
Nice.
The fact that we have everything. We have humanity, we have quality, we have the resources. We have everything in Africa. We have smiles even. That's just a good reason to start a business.
Absolutely.
We also have always been motivated by trying to give access for small farmers, indigenous farmers, to markets that were previously unheard of for that kind of a farmer.
Okay.
So if you look at the export industry in Zimbabwe, it has for many years been dominated by commercial farmers.
Okay.
Small-scale farmers have never really been very much involved. So we took it upon ourselves to bring small-scale farmers up to speed with the standards and the requirements for that market and give them an opportunity to showcase what we can do as Africans and export those smiles and taste of Zimbabwe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So what would it take for the average or the layman farmer to be in this so-called position that you say that you help farmers? Where do they need to go to? Because as an organization, as a company, what we have faced is a lot of our farmers don't know where to go, they don't know what to do, and they don't know how to reach those levels. So what would it take for the layman farmer to come to you and say, "Inini ndiri murimi, what do I do? Where can we find you?" sort of thing?
What it takes is just desire and the land. If you've got land and water and the desire to farm, get a hold of us. We sit down and we talk. Every farmer is a different case. We listen to your story. We try to translate the international standards and the requirements into your specific story. And we make sure that you meet the standards and we start working. So we encourage that people don't take too long trying to decide. Don't wait until you feel that you are there. As long as you have water and you have the land, you are a farmer. I mean, I believe that we are all born farmers. Every African is a farmer in one way or another. You are either farming in the land, you are farming digitally, you are farming in many ways.
Yeah, sure.
So as long as you have the desire, you have the land, you have the water, you can farm. And we are very easily accessible. We have an open door policy at our office. You can walk in and talk to our agronomists. You can contact us online. You can contact us on WhatsApp. You can contact us via our websites. We are very available.
Okay, so the biggest concern with farmers is a lot of people will always say before they start farming is that can they leave their day job and become farmers? Can farming become a career?
Farming is a career. It has to be a career. So I always say we have to prepare ourselves to be farmers from when we're in school. You know, when you want to be a lawyer, you know already you've got to do arts O level, you've got to pass arts at A level, you've got to do these subjects to mold yourself for the future, for what programs you want to do in university. We have not, as indigenous people in Africa, in Zimbabwe, we have not taken that responsibility, or that we have not looked at it that way. We have looked at farming as the other thing that you could do if you don't find what we think are top jobs.
Yes.
But if you look at the commercial farmers and how they raise their families and their kids, when we take our kids to church, they take their kids to the land. They teach them to milk a cow. We teach our kids to do the math. So you've got to. Nothing wrong with going to church, nothing wrong with doing the math. You need the math. You need to be able to calculate the money. But you need to train, we need to train our kids, we need to train your whole life to become a farmer. It's a career. Just like how you train to be a doctor for a long time or a pilot. You need to condition yourself from when you're young or for a long time. For some that are already old, you need to condition yourself and prepare yourself to be a farmer. So yes, you can leave your full-time job and become a full-time farmer. Most successful farmers, all successful farmers that I know, live on their farms. It's their lifestyle, it's their full-time job. It takes more than 24 hours a day out of you to run a farm. So yeah.
So at Global Farmers Connect, we did a survey and we found that majority of Zimbabweans have access to a minimum of 5 hectares. What can a person do with 5 hectares?
A lot. That's actually one of the things that we use as a selling line or as a starting point. 60% of the land in Zimbabwe right now is owned by indigenous small-scale farmers. The statistics say an average Zimbabwean family owns at least 2 hectares of land. Everyone, 16 million people, an average of 2 hectares of land that they cultivate and grow for sustenance. What we're trying to do with our program is to make that land that is for sustenance and commercialize it. So 5 hectares is a big number. We're working with farmers that have 0.5 of a hectare, 1 hectare, 2 hectares. So if you have 5 hectares and you have the resources, you can even do blueberries for us. We've got another model of a different kind of a small-scale farmer where we are promoting even high-value crops such as blueberries for farmers that can afford that kind of investment to get into it, and at the end of the day we aggregate and we present ourselves as one big volume in the market.
So without putting you on the spot, right, can you tell me at least 5 crops roughly, you don't have to do all of them, that someone can grow on a 5 hectare farm, and how much roughly would they be able to get monthly, just to make it make sense for the people?
I'll tell you 2 crops.
Okay.
I'll tell you 2 crops. So Munch 2 and Sugar Snaps, they're actually 2 crops, but we'll consider them as 1 crop. If you put in $10,000 per hectare as an investment, and we expect you to get a minimum of 8 tons exportable, and we pay you $2 a kg, you make about $6,000 in a hectare. That's about 90 days. It's a 90-day crop. So that's one option. And obviously it makes better sense when you do more volumes, because it's a game of numbers and a game of volumes. And the second crop is blueberries. If you put in $100,000 to $150,000 a hectare, times, let's say, work with 5,500 plants per hectare, at a minimum price of $7, yielding or getting, let's say, 5 kgs out of each plant. So it's 5 kgs times 5,500 plants times $7. You can do the math.
Wonderful. I think the people have heard it for themselves. So what are the crops that are highest on demand that you find that buyers want in the market currently?
I've got to correct that first. So it's not, you do not farm crops based on what is on demand. Okay. Because that can change very quickly and things can go very bad.
Absolutely.
You grow a crop that you have a contract for, so a crop that you have a market for. So everything that we do with our farmers, we give an offtake agreement first that then guarantees you that the market is there. Absolutely. So before we even give our farmers the contracts, we also make sure we have an offtake agreement with the market. So right now, we are concentrating on Munch 2 and Sugar Snap peas for the EU and UK, which they also called snow peas for the EU and UK. That's a crop that has been traditionally grown in Zimbabwe for a very long time. It's almost a guaranteed crop that you will find a market for that. And obviously blueberries, which is one of the most trending fruits right now.
Absolutely. I think you're making business sense to farming, because a lot of people don't see the business side as farmers, and that's really important, especially if you want to make that career. Lastly, I just wanted to say, so can you just tell us what's the importance of having your service and why farmers should use you when they're farming? Is it necessary? Can they do it on their own? Explain to us.
Okay, so farming is not, it's a science. People spend 4 years in university, 5 years studying crop science, agronomy, livestock, crop husbandry, and all of that. You've got to, when you go to the hospital, you need to see a doctor or a nurse. When you're farming, you need someone that is good in that industry, that is an expert, that is trained for that industry. So what we give you is, we give you the market guaranteed, and for us to make sure that you produce the right quality and you grow the right crops in the right ways, we give you seasoned, not only agronomists, but seasoned agronomists, experienced agronomists. So these agronomists, their job is to help you with all the scientific information that you don't have. I've said this before in one podcast that a lot of us have grown maize as kids or as families. If you ask 99% or the vast majority of people that grow maize, they don't understand why they put fertilizers when they put fertilizers. They have no idea.
Absolutely.
They just do it because the next door neighbor is doing it.
Yes.
Or because at this time of the year we put ammonium nitrate and they call it top. There's no data, there's no scientific information collection, there's nothing that is justifying the input of that fertilizer. So the world has changed, you know about global warming, you know, the markets are very sensitive, everyone is trying to look after the short resources that we have. So when you do everything, you've got to practice good agricultural practices, you've got to know what fertilizers to use and when and why, you've got to use that amount of water, when and why, you've got to use only specific plant protection products. There are a lot of plant protection products that are banned for the destination markets or for the production countries. You've got to know all that information, and the only way to know it is to work with an agronomist, an experienced agronomist.
Absolutely.
That is why you need us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that basically, in a nutshell, you're minimizing the risk.
We minimize the risk, we guarantee the market and the price, we guarantee yield. We essentially become a business partner, because once we contract you to grow a crop for us, it's in our interest to make sure that we get that amount of tonnage out of your crop, because we then go and promise that to the market and we have to deliver. So people should not look at it as a service that we provide. It is actually a partnership, because we also give inputs. We put a lot of money in sending agronomists, so it's a partnership.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And lastly, I know I said this before, but what you've just said has just led me to the next question. What would you say to the ethical farmers that don't want to use GMO seeds, that are passionate about what they put in their bodies, because there's a massive change for demand with consumers of not wanting to use fertilizers and GMO seeds? What would you say to those kind of farmers if they want to farm like that? Is there a market for them?
So there's two things I want to comment about. The first thing is the one model of farming that you described there is called organic farming. So there are a lot of people who are health conscious, who believe in eating only organic grown products. That's a lifestyle choice. There is a market for that, but however, it is very difficult to raise crops organically. You leave yourself exposed to a lot of diseases and pests that you can't control with synthetic measures. So it is a very difficult way of farming, but there is a specific market for it. The second thing I want to comment about is the GMOs. So I personally do not have any problems with genetically modified products. GMOs are not always necessarily putting bad things in food or in seed. Sometimes GMOs are really just to enhance the seed, to make the seed drought resistant, to make the seed yield better, to change the genetics of the seed for the better, not always to harm people. So there's nothing wrong with with GMOs. We need to be open-minded about it. If you look at our production of maize, comparing to other countries that produce maize, our production in Zimbabwe as a country gets lower and lower every year because of the type of seed that we use. And the countries that we compete with, they've got, which we end up importing from in some instances, they've allowed themselves to move with times to modify the genetics of the seed to get more drought-resistant seed, to get more less demanding seed, more disease and pest-resistant seed, and they've been successful. So I personally have nothing against GMOs. So GMOs are not necessarily a translation of trying to harm people. There's a lot of gray areas there and a lot of mist around that area that needs to be demystified.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you. We've heard it from the expert himself. So that's been wonderful. I hope I've been a great advocate for all farmers. You've heard the numbers, you've heard the conversation. Thank you very much, Mr. Mwale.
Thank you.
It's been